What if just one short vacation could cost you your green card? Thousands of US green card holders are now facing intense scrutiny at airports, and some are being blocked from re-entering the country despite following the rules. What changed? The laws didn't, but the enforcement did. In this video, we'll break down 7 hidden traps in the new US immigration crackdown, and how even one mistake could destroy your status. Stay to the end. Number 1 is the most shocking, and it's affecting parents the most. Number 7. Frequent short trips are now a red flag. Let's start with one of the most unexpected changes. For years, green card holders thought short trips abroad were harmless. A quick visit to family, a short business meeting, a 2-week vacation. But under the new rules, the danger is not how long you stay abroad, it's how often you go. Immigration attorneys report that since early 2024, at least 800 green card holders were flagged for extra screening after taking 4 or more short trips in a single year. Some walked away with just a warning, others were issued notices to appear in immigration court. The message is clear. Customs and Border Protection is no longer focused on a single 6-month absence. They're looking for patterns. Too many stamps in your passport, and it looks less like you live in America and more like you're based somewhere else. Even trips under 30 days are raising red flags. Critics call this residency by algorithm. They argue a computer can't decide your intent to live in the US. So what about international caregivers flying every month to look after sick parents? And what about employees who are asked to travel for work? Civil rights groups, they say these people are basically being punished for their family duty or professional success. But CBP, well, they defend the crackdown. Officials argue that too many green card holders are living abroad full-time while still collecting US benefits. They say this pattern-based enforcement is necessary, honestly, to protect the system. Here's where it gets risky. Imagine this. 2 travelers. One spends 6 months abroad caring for a parent but comes back with proof of US life. No problem there. Another takes 6 quick trips in a year for work, and suddenly that starts to look suspicious. So, which one is actually at risk? The answer might surprise you. And honestly, this is just the beginning. Because if frequent travel can raise red flags, just wait until you hear what happens when your tax forms don't match your residency. That's coming up. But first, number 6 reveals why even a re-entry permit is no longer the shield it used to be. Number 6, re-entry permits no longer guarantee safety. This one really hits hard because it overturns what so many thought was the safest backup plan. For decades, a re-entry permit was considered the golden ticket. It let green card holders spend up to 2 years abroad without risking their status. But under this new wave of enforcement, that promise just doesn't hold anymore. Since mid-2024, immigration lawyers have reported more than 300 cases where travelers with valid permits were stopped at airports. Some were grilled for hours. Others walked out with a notice to appear in court. A few even had their permits questioned or revoked right on the spot. So what changed? Not the law, the interpretation. Now, border officers treat a re-entry permit as a request, not a guarantee. If your home, job, or taxes point overseas, they can argue you're no longer maintaining intent to reside in the United States. One lawyer compared it to handing someone a seatbelt, then punishing them for wearing it. Critics say this creates a trap. Immigrants follow the rules, apply for permits, pay the fees, and still get punished. Families separated by work or medical needs are the ones suffering. But government officials push back. They argue too many people use green cards like membership cards, living abroad while still collecting United States healthcare, tax benefits, and other perks. Under tighter scrutiny, that era is ending. Here's the catch. Even if your permit says 2 years, the officer in front of you now has the final word. That means your safety depends less on paperwork and more on proving your daily life is still anchored in America. Number 5. Proof of United States life required at airports. And here's where the pressure ramps up. Re-entering the country is no longer just about showing your green card and passport. Today, every trip back feels more like a mini residency audit. Customs and Border Protection officers now expect you to prove that your daily life is rooted in the United States, not just on paper, but with documents in hand. So here's what you need to know. We're talking about utility bills, tax returns, a lease or mortgage, employment letters, school enrollment for your kids, and even a driver's license tied to your US address. The numbers, honestly, are staggering. In the year 2024 alone, at least 1,000 green card holders were pulled aside for document checks at airports. More than 200 were flagged for lacking proof of US ties. There's one case that really stands out. A woman returned from a 5-week trip where she was helping her daughter abroad. She had her green card, passport, and a valid re-entry permit, but, she didn't have a current lease or recent pay stub. She was detained, interrogated, and her green card was marked for future scrutiny. Her case is now stuck in legal limbo, all because she didn't carry paperwork showing her life in America. Civil rights groups are calling this proof-based profiling. They argue it creates a two-tier system. Those who can afford to carry folders of documents and those, like retirees or caregivers, who can't. Older immigrants, in particular, are being hit the hardest. But officials, on the other hand, defend the crackdown, insisting that fraud is growing and stronger documentation is the only way to protect the system. Here's the scary part. Even if your trip is short, even if it's for an emergency, if you can't prove continuous ties, you could walk off a plane straight into secondary inspection. Number 4, emergency trips still count against you. This is where the rules turn from strict to heartbreaking. You'd think emergencies would earn compassion. Flying out for a funeral, caring for a sick parent, handling a family crisis. But under the new enforcement, even genuine emergencies can raise suspicion and put your green card at risk. Take the case of one permanent resident who rushed to India to care for her dying father. She stayed 4 months, returned with medical documents, and showed proof she always planned to come back. Still, she was pulled into secondary inspection, questioned for hours, and told her travel raised concerns about her intent to reside in the United States. Her case is now pending review, and she's not alone. Since 2024, immigration lawyers have reported at least 500 emergency travel cases flagged by border officers. Many of these people weren't gone for long, but their trips broke the pattern of continuous United States residency. That was enough to trigger warnings or even formal reviews. Critics say this creates a cruel choice: be a good son or daughter or protect your legal status. Civil rights groups argue the new rules are inhumane, punishing families for doing the right thing. But officials counter with a hard line. They claim too many people in the past used family excuses as cover for living abroad permanently. Their response now: no exceptions. The bigger shift here is philosophical. Officers are no longer asking why you left. They're asking how it looks on paper. If the pattern suggests abandonment, even a life or death reason won't save you. And if you think keeping trips short is enough, wait until you hear about number 3. Because one mistake on your tax forms can now cost you your green card, even if you never left the country. Number 3. Tax filings can jeopardize residency. Here's a trap most green card holders never see coming. For years, immigration rules and tax rules lived in separate lanes. But now, the IRS and immigration authorities are linked, and what you write on a tax form could decide the fate of your residency. If you file as a non-resident for tax purposes, it can be used as evidence that you've abandoned your US home. And that's not theory, it's already happening. In 2024 alone, more than 600 green card holders were flagged because their tax status didn't match their immigration status. One man spent only 3 months abroad each year. He kept a home in the United States, stayed under every travel limit, and followed the rules. But he filed taxes as a foreign resident to avoid double taxation. When he applied for citizenship, his case was denied. Worse, his green card itself was sent for review. Years of effort erased by one filing mistake. Attorneys warn this is a hidden danger. Many tax preparers don't realize that choosing the wrong filing status can trigger immigration scrutiny. They call it a built-in trap that could quietly sabotage thousands of lawful residents. But government officials see it differently. They argue that paying taxes is not just financial paperwork, it's proof of where you really live. To them, if your tax status says you live abroad, that overrides whatever your green card says. And here's the scary part. Even a small mistake like listing a foreign address or forgetting to update residency can be treated as proof you abandoned America. Number 2, Officer discretion creates uncertainty. Now we move into the most unpredictable rule of all, because at this stage your green card doesn't just depend on laws or documents. It depends on the judgment of the officer standing in front of you. Customs and Border Protection has been given broad power. There's no strict checklist, no guaranteed formula. It's all about how your case feels in the moment. That means two travelers carrying the same documents with the same travel history can face completely different outcomes. One gets waved through, the other is pulled into secondary inspection, questioned for hours, and handed a notice to appear in immigration court. The numbers prove the shift. In 2024 alone, over 1,000 green card holders reported being unexpectedly flagged at airports. Many weren't stopped by computer systems, but by an officer's gut instinct. Even people returning from 2 trips were interrogated like long-term absentees. Advocates call this green card roulette. They warn it opens the door to bias and unequal treatment. Older immigrants, those with limited English or travelers from targeted regions, may be hit hardest. Civil rights groups argue that no one's future should depend on an officer's hunch. But DHS defends the system. They say discretion gives officers the flexibility to catch fraud that rigid checklists would miss. To them, judgment is a tool, not a threat. For green card holders, though, that flexibility feels like walking through customs on eggshells, because once you're flagged, your file is marked. Every trip after that becomes harder. And here's the twist. Even if you survive this stage, number 1 is waiting, the rule that has already shattered thousands of citizenship dreams right before the finish line. Number 1, final trips before citizenship interview are risky. And here it is, the most shocking rule of all. You can follow every requirement for years. Pay your taxes, keep your green card spotless, stay within every travel limit. But one trip taken at the wrong time can wipe out everything right before your naturalization interview. To qualify for U.S. citizenship, you must prove continuous residence and physical presence. But here's the catch: trips over 6 months, or too many short trips in the year before your interview, can be used to argue that you broke that continuity. The consequences are devastating. In 2024, more than 700 citizenship cases were delayed, reset, or outright denied because of travel patterns in that final window. Some applicants even saw their green cards re-examined, placing their entire residency at risk. One woman's case really shows how unforgiving the system has become. After living in the United States for years, she flew to the Philippines for just over 6 months to help with a family inheritance. She came back, passed her English and civics test, but her application was denied. The officer ruled that her long trip had broken her continuity of residence. Now she must wait 4 more years before applying again. 4 years lost, all because of one trip. Critics argue this standard is unfair. They say it traps well-meaning immigrants who follow the law but stumble at the very end. It turns families into prisoners of geography, afraid to leave the country, even for emergencies. But officials defend the rule. To them, citizenship is not just about paperwork. It's about proving beyond doubt that your life is firmly rooted in America. And here's the chilling part. Even if your trip was legal, even if it was necessary, if it raises doubt about your intent to reside, it can be used against you. That's how fragile the path to citizenship has become. So the bottom line, years of effort, gone in a moment. Not because you broke the law, but because the interpretation of your life shifted. And that leaves one final question. Should one vacation really have the power to erase the American dream? These 7 traps show how fragile a green card really is today. It's no longer just about following the rules. It's about how those rules are enforced and how your life is judged on paper. One mistake, one trip, even one form can undo years of effort. Do these rules truly protect America? Or do they unfairly punish families who are simply trying to live and care for loved ones? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your story. Have you or someone you know faced extra checks, delays, or warnings at the airport? Share it below because your experience might help thousands of others. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss updates that could affect your status and your future.